All right, and this is the second episode of Joe and Cole versus the world. My name is Cole, your co-host, and I was once forcibly removed from an IHOP in Florida.
My name is Joe, and I once got acquitted from The Hague.
Mine's actually a true story, buddy.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we had to be...
So today's topic
Yeah.
is we're talking about the Shaggs and their album Philosophy of the World.
Right.
I made Joe listen to this album. I love it.
I have mixed feelings, to say the least.
So we're going to talk about it. So Joe, what did you think of the Shaggs Philosophy of the World?
As I said earlier to you, it is absolutely not my thing at all.
What genre is it, Joe?
I believe we found out it was alternative 60s music?
It's on the Spotify Alternative 60s playlist, yes. So there's a story behind the album. And I refrained from telling you this today at lunch because I wanted to actually formally record it and tell you about it.
Right.
So
I've been quivering in my boots to find out about this god-awful album.
okay, so there are several parts that I might be a little bit off about, but they're just like little details, right?
Okay.
But I think I have most of the story down memory-wise. So basically, this guy, I believe it was his mother that had a palm reading, or maybe it was him that had a palm reading. It was one of them. And it said that you were going to marry a woman with strawberry blonde hair. You're going to have 2 sons, and then you're going to have 3 daughters in a rock and roll band that are going to be like hugely famous. Okay?
Right.
That's what I remember, okay? And so it was either his mother or the son that dreamed this up, okay? Or, that had this palm reading. And so he ended up marrying a strawberry blonde-haired woman. He had 2 sons, and then he eventually had 3 daughters, just as the palm reading said. So what he did was he wanted to make the rest of it come true. So he took his 3 daughters out of school, okay? And he essentially just gave them the instruments. He's like, here's a drum set, here's a guitar, here's a bass, learn to sing. Just learn to play, right? And become super rich.
So let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Does this guy have any knowledge, know-how whatsoever of music?
No. He kind of reminds me of like a Michael Jackson type of, like his dad, Michael Jackson's dad, who was kind of like that. Except Michael Jackson actually had talent.
Right.
So this whole saga, eventually they end up playing a few gigs in their town. Okay, they just they're like a local band, like
Right.
Local bands, depending on the scene, they kind of just suck.
Right.
But it's like, hey, we got music coming from our town, so we're gonna support it. So basically, they end up recording a record, right? And they release it, and then once they turned 18. They never performed again, and they just got away as fast as they could because they were forced to be in it. They did not want to be in the band, the 3 daughters.
Right.
Okay? So that's kind of the main thing, okay? So they were essentially forced to be in the band, right? And certain songs, they're all written by them, okay? Because they figured out what to do. So they figured out how to kind of like write lyrics, I guess, which isn't really that hard, but... one of their songs is called My Pal Foot Foot. You remember that song?
I do remember that one.
Okay, so My Pal Foot Foot was about I believe a cat or a dog. I'm thinking cat, that it would just kind of like walk around in their town, and that's just what they would write about. It was just like that kind of
Just
stuff.
the stuff that happened in their area?
Yes, I believe this was in America. Okay. Judging by their accents, maybe European. I couldn't really tell.
They're either American or probably like UK, Irish.
You're gonna have to come a bit closer to the mic because it's barely picking you up when you lean back.
Yeah, US, Irish, UK sort of thing.
Something. So that's what's interesting. Now, eventually the album becomes a cult classic because of how weird and out there it is.
So people this thing is. You didn't just find this, right?
No, this is actually something that people talk about still and actually appreciate. So people like Frank Zappa. Do you know who Frank Zappa is? He's kind of like a weird music guy. Like he's put out tons of albums.
Gotcha.
He made Don't Eat the Yellow Snow. If you've heard that song before, okay. He's a really good 70s, 60s, even 80s kind of rock guy. But anyways, he loves the album. He thinks it's phenomenal. And Kurt Cobain from Nirvana loved the album too. So they saw something in it, right? And it's like, like you hear it and it's complete dog shit.
Right.
On just a fundamental level of just not knowing how to play the instruments.
So it wasn't deliberately awful. It was just awful.
Yeah, they thought that. Well, here's the thing, okay? Because then there's more to it. So I'll get to that. There is a band called Neutral Milk Hotel, and they went on tour in around 2017, and they actually got in touch with the members of the Shaggs, and the Shaggs opened for them. They opened for them on their tour.
What year was this?
2017. So here's the thing, though. It was all written on sheet music when they were performing. If you watch the videos of them performing, it's on sheet music, meaning they actually wrote it out.
Mm-hmm.
So
this was original. Are you saying that this was original music that they had made just like sort of on a website, or they actually knew what they were doing at the very least? Sort of.
I think they made the album out of spite towards their dad, meaning they made the worst album possible, because writing songs on sheet music requires knowledge of music theory at least, right? So my theory is that they made a bad album on purpose so they wouldn't have to tour or anything.
Okay.
Right? That's my theory at least. And that's where this kind of gets deep, because apparently the dad was somewhat abusive towards them, at least. And it's like, you got to wonder then if they just made a terrible album out of spite.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. But the fact that so many musicians love it, like myself included, I love this album because it's so bad it's good,
right.
It's not like 100 Gex or whatever the hell they're called, where they're just ass, so it's like, at least with this, it's so bad it's good. Like that first song, Philosophy of the World.
Yeah.
Like you hear those drums come in and they are off tempo. Like I don't even think they know what a metronome is. Like, I love it though because it's so funny.
I've never heard of like it's so bad it's good in music before. You hear that with movies all the time.
Of course, like The Room. But I feel like, there are tons of albums that are so bad they're good in my opinion.
Okay.
Corey Feldman's Angelic to the Core. If you've heard that one.
No, I'll look into it probably.
The album cover is cropped so horribly that it just lets you know how much care was put into the album. He apparently spent 10 years recording it, and it is terrible. Snoop Dogg is a guest on one of the songs, and not even he can make it good. I think Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit is on it too. Do you know who Corey Feldman is? He is... what was he in? He's like a child actor, basically.
Okay.
He was in a lot of like 80s shows. I'm trying to think of what you would know. I'm gonna look it up right now, actually, because I'm trying to remember what Corey Feldman was actually
like
in.
The only guy I would know is probably like Will Wheaton, maybe.
Oh yeah, Will Wheaton blocked me on Twitter. He was in Goonies. Corey Feldman was. He was in Gremlins. He was in Stand By Me.
Okay, I know that one.
Yeah. And, he's been in a lot of stuff. Have you seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
No.
Okay, because he's in that.
Yeah, Stand By Me, though, that I am aware of.
Yeah, so he's in Stand By Me. And I don't know. Because he kind of he dresses up as Michael Jackson during his live shows. Like, the most bizarre thing ever is when he was on, I believe, the Today Show. And he performed one of his songs, Go For It. And it was legitimately the most awkward thing ever. All the backing band were all females, and they were all wearing bikinis, and they were wearing angel costumes. And he's in this Michael Jackson outfit, and he's doing these awkward dance moves, and it's so uncomfortable because he's actually proud of it when the performance ends, and he acts like it's the greatest thing he's ever done.
Oh,
and it was really bad. I'll have to show it to you. you get secondhand embarrassment. Like, I'm getting it just thinking about it right now.
Oh, shit.
It's that bad. So that's one album that's so bad it's good. I mean, I don't know, because music is so subjective that, like, I mean, people might even consider stuff like All Star by Smash Mouth to be so bad it's good.
Yeah.
You know? Or, like, really anything by Smash Mouth, or even Nickelback. You know, like, those kind of bands. Like, granted, though, they're completely different. But, you know, Nickelback, like... Okay, Nickelback is the kind of band where people will shit on them, but 5 seconds later, you'll play Photograph by them, and people will be singing along. Like, that's the thing, though. Like, everyone knows their songs.
Yeah.
And when they start playing, they'll sing along.
Right.
But as soon as as soon as the song ends, people will be like, wow, Nickelback really sucks. But yet everyone can quote, look at this photograph. You know,
Right.
like everyone can do that, you know?
Yeah.
And they just know that it's Nickelback. So, I don't know, there's something weird about that. You didn't know?
No.
Have you even heard a Nickelback song?
Nope.
Oh,
I'm telling you, man, we got to do somewhere we just find out how much I don't know.
I'm really curious about that, actually. Like, all right, I'm just going to come up with a band off the top of my head. AC/DC.
Those guys, what, they did Thunderstruck, right?
Yes. All right. Do you know Biggie Smalls?
What the hell?
Do you know Tupac?
That sounds familiar.
Oh, Christ. Do you know Kanye West?
Yeah, that I am aware of.
You know Nirvana?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know Post Malone?
Yes.
Okay. You know Snoop Dogg?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you know Guns N' Roses?
Yes.
Do you know Slayer?
That, I don't think I've heard anything from them.
Oh, but you've heard of them, though? You've at least heard of them?
That's definitely something I've heard of.
Okay. Do you know Motorhead?
No. That's totally foreign.
I don't know if I can keep doing this podcast, Joe. We're going to have to end it at episode 2 because this is terrible. I'm going to kidnap you. I'm going to tie you to a chair and force you to listen to every Slayer album ever.
Okay.
Because this is unholy, in my opinion. But getting back to the Shaggs, philosophy of the world, as they put it, I feel like it's such a bizarre album.
It felt really surreal.
It did.
It was really, I was listening to it and I was like, there's gotta be, like, obviously you were telling me there's a story to it, but even then I was like, my initial plan was to listen to it just to, like, listen to it.
Yeah.
And then listen to it to see if there is any deeper meaning to it or whatever.
Well, the lyrics, like, I wouldn't say they're deep, but at least they have, like, a message to them.
Yeah.
So, for example, the song Philosophy of the World, I got the lyrics here. It says, oh, the rich people want what the poor people's got.
I was listening to.
And the poor people want what the rich people's got. And the skinny people want what the fat people got. And the fat people want what the skinny people got. You can never please anybody in this world. That's kind of, like, almost poetic in a way.
Yeah.
That it makes you wonder, like, I guess, were they aware that they were making... Joe! Oh, God. What are you, like, playing with?
The broken-ass mic over here, dude.
Oh,
here, let me
God.
get this shit out of here.
But anyways, it's like, I don't know. It's so weird because, like they got songs like My Pal's Name is Foot Foot. He always likes to roam. My pal's name is Foot Foot. I never find him home. I go to his house, knock at his door. People come out and say, Foot Foot, don't live here no more. Like, I don't know. There's just, the lyrics are actually kind of good.
Yeah, I especially Philosophy of the World, and then as I was listening to the rest of it, I just sort of was like, okay.
Like zoning out,
Yeah, but I was listening to that one, and I was at least like, okay, there's a message. I could barely hear it, though. It sounded so
the mixing
bad.
is terrible, yeah. You could barely understand it. But, I don't know. I think there's something interesting about that, though, at least.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to print those out and, like, put it into, like, a poetry book, and I were to read it, I would be like, yeah, that's fantastic. You know, like, it's well written. It's like Death Grips. I mean, we've listened to Death Grips, you know,
right.
And it's like their lyrics are really thoughtful if you really read them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a dude yelling over a microphone, but, you know, like, there's still meaning to it, at least with Death Grips, and even with the Shaggs, too. So, I don't know.
I see what you mean now by people thinking there was like some potential to it. Yeah.
I really think that it's more well thought out than if you just were to listen to it, which I think could almost be a bit pretentious, where it's like, oh, you actually have to read the lyrics to understand it. But then again, though, it's like, it's understanding context.
Right.
Because I think they're really trying to say something. And I don't know. Maybe we're just reading too deep into this. And it's just like, it's a really bad album. And we're just reading way too deep into this terrible album. But I don't know. It's just bizarre because, I don't know. There's bad music coming out all the time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, think about how many dudes you see commenting in Instagram meme pages that are like, I'm a 15-year-old SoundCloud rapper from Atlanta. Hit me up. I'm up next, guys. And it's garbage.
Right.
It's unlistenable trash. But what differentiates that from the Shaggs? Right? Obviously age, because the Shaggs is so old.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. Like, what's your opinion on, like, why it stands out compared to other garbage music?
Well, I was listening to it, and I was thrown off by it, of course. So I felt maybe there was at least some effort into it somewhere. There was somebody tried, at least, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how hard they tried, but they definitely put a lot more effort into it than
the 15-year-old SoundCloud rapper from Atlanta in 2020. Yeah.
Actually, when you think about it, because that's nowadays. Back then, it was probably a lot more difficult to get the equipment.
Oh, of course.
And everything.
Yeah. So I really don't know. Because I feel like it's strange that this has a legacy. But so many fantastic artists from those times that really didn't get that much attention are pretty much completely forgotten.
Yeah.
Right? Like St. John Green is a fantastic band. They're from Minnesota. I believe they're from Minnesota, maybe. And they kind of sound like the Doors in a way. They released one album, I believe. I think one album. And it is phenomenal.
Right.
And that's a band where, like, literally I go to the comments. There's 4 comments on one of their songs. And one of the comments is like, oh, yeah, this is my boyfriend's dad's band. And then somebody's like, how's he doing now? And it's like, oh, he has throat cancer. And you're just kind of thinking, like, now they're just dads. They're like doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, it's just bizarre how many, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's so many like albums that came out during the 60s, 70s. I mean, even now, I think now more than ever. But back then with actual like production value that would be coming out that nobody would really like pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so bizarre now how.
I guess I'm not really into the music crowd at all.
Yeah.
I just listen to listen.
Yeah.
But I think maybe it's sort of like how the Avengers, the whole Marvel thing.
Yeah.
That overshadows things. So maybe it was one of those deals where you have so many spectacular artists at that time that are totally overshadowing everybody else.
I mean, you had the Beatles at the same time. You had the
Right.
Doors, which, by the way, St. John Green sounds a lot like the Doors, where the lead singer sounds a lot like Jim Morrison. He has a very deep kind of voice that really carries over what they're singing. Electric pianos that they're using. I mean, it's a very similar sound, but in my opinion, I like St. John Green more than the Doors. Mm-hmm. That's how good that band is, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, like, it's just, there are so many bands, I think, that were just too weird for even the hippies. That were coming out at the time. Like, for example, the Electric Prunes, I just love. Ultimate Spinach is one of my favorite ones. Like, I know these sound fake, but there's one. I mean,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Like,
there's one band that I like called the Peanut Butter Conspiracy. That's also a 60s band as well. And it's like, I think I've even mentioned that to you one time.
Maybe. But it's interesting, too, because those names, they sound a lot more modern, too.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's weird too is that a lot of these things are starting to come back or already have come back. Obviously the Shaggs has come back into public view, or at least within the music crowd.
Right.
It's something that's generally accepted. But like garage rock as a whole, which is like lower quality music, like recorded like that on purpose. Like I would consider Phantom Lake to be a garage rock band because like once you hear, and I'll play some of the stuff that we have recorded already, like it's lo-fi. It isn't. We're not trying to sound super. Like we don't want it to sound really produced. We want it to sound raw, like you're just hearing us play in the living room.
Yeah.
And that whole style was a huge thing in the '60s, underground-wise. Just trying to think of some of the bands right now. I'm kind of forgetting some, but I have this whole playlist on my phone, and it's like, you get a lot of those kind of bands, and you almost have to wonder if like guys nowadays are hearing that going, we should try to bring this back.
That actually, this is a unrelated medium, but gaming.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff with like retro shooters.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
like Undertale. That's not a shooter, but it's still like totally something that could have came out in like the 90s.
Yeah. Because I saw this whole string of like reviews that was a whole bunch of people that are trying to capitalize on that whole nostalgia thing. So maybe you're right. It's sort of that whole taking a look back at what we got and seeing what we can do with it.
I agree. Yeah. And I mean, especially now, like, we're recording this podcast right here on a computer.
Yeah.
That I paid $400 for, and a mic that would you have this like in your closet or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
And we're able to just broadcast this out to however many people will end up listening to this. Where, nowadays, if you want to start, a band and just record an album, you literally can. Yeah. All you need, like, I do a lot of my recordings for demos and stuff just on my phone. So I think that's really interesting. And even with movies too.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you want to go film? Cool. Your iPhone has a 4K camera.
Yeah.
Go film, And that's really interesting to me. So I don't know. I think we're just reading too deep into the Shaggs, man.
It's fun to explore, I'll tell you that much.
It is. I don't know. It's just so bizarre. I keep using the word bizarre because it starts out and it's just like the guitar starts playing and then the drums is boom, 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 boom. Like it's like, like what is this? Like, it's just, I don't know. I've never heard anything like it.
What I'm more curious about, rather than just where you heard the music from, where did you hear the story from? Like, did you hear the story first and then take a look at the band? Or
I heard the band first, actually, like years ago when I was really starting to get into like lesser known music from like the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
And I heard people hyping it up and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll go check it out. And I'm like, what is this? This is horrid. And I just turned it off and then didn't really think much about it. That was like around like middle school.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I think it was 2 years ago, around freshman year. Or that was 3 years ago, I think. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old.
You still got a few years to go, man.
But anyways, so I'm like, I'm listening to it again. And I'm just like, what's the story behind this? And then I found out all about it. And it was crazy. Because that's when I was really getting into like lo-fi stuff. Like one of my favorite albums is White Zombie's first ever EP, which it's not an album, it's an EP, but is their first EP, Gods of Voodoo Mountain or Gods of Voodoo Moon. I think it's Gods of Voodoo Moon. I think it is. It's Gods of Voodoo something. Okay.
I do like eating yogurt with dirt.
I agree. So basically, I listened to it, and it didn't even sound like Rob Zombie. He was singing at this like really high register, and it just sounded terrible.
Yeah.
But it gave me the motivation to try and record stuff because I'm like, wow, if they ended up becoming White Zombie, obviously they had to work up to that, and get better at it the more and more that you do it. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll give this a shot. I'll start recording some stuff. So I think it's interesting to look at bad stuff because it's almost like it's motivating.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking right as you were saying that.
Where it's like, this is so bad, I can do better.
Yeah, or it's so bad, I might as well give it a shot.
Yeah, And my favorite thing ever is looking up Heath Ledger Joker impressions on YouTube and then filtering it to most recent. You get the funniest things in the world, I swear. If you're listening to this right now, okay? I don't even care if you X out of this podcast. Please do it. It is so funny. Type in Heath Ledger Joker impression and then go to most recent on the filter. You will literally laugh for hours. Okay, it is the funniest thing ever. Oh, God, I love YouTube sometimes. Like, for real. All this, like, weird stuff is like recommended to you through the YouTube recommendation system, and I think it's so bizarre.
Yeah. Oh man. What a coincidence. I just watched Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, pretty much. And yeah, so that's pretty much all I got to say about that is what a coincidence that's what I was watching.
Great save, buddy.
Yeah, I know, awesome. After taking a decent break. But
that's when we decided to splice it right there. Right mid-sentence as you were like, and I'm going to leave that in. That's staying in.
all right,
It's
fine.
staying in.
Awesome, yeah.
So, back to the Shaggs, philosophy of the world.
Hold on. What else do we got to say about the Shaggs?
Really, I mean, like, we can conclude it, and then we can talk about the movies and the video games that we've been playing again, to kind of like round it out. So, frankly, in my opinion, I think that the Shaggs' philosophy of the world is secretly a genius album that everyone in the world needs to listen to. 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
Oh yeah, everybody who's listening to this for some reason, you should listen to the Shaggs so you know what we're talking about too.
Yeah, most likely. At least just listen to the first song so you can get the whole gist of the album. Because really, if you've heard the first song, you've heard the whole album. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Honestly, I'd say it gets worse from there.
Yeah, the first song isn't even that. Well, okay, it's terrible, but compared to the rest of the album, it's at least it's not even listenable. I'm trying to give this album too much leeway here, but I don't know.
I mean, I was able to listen to it on the bus at least. Like, as I was listening to it, I was coming to school on the Holy shit! I killed this. Oh my god.
I'm imagining you. I'm imagining you sitting on the bus staring out the window all depressed while fucking the Shaggs blasts through your fucking earbuds.
And it was even weirder too because you...
God damn it, Joe, no.
You know how Spotify... Like sometimes you'll be listening to something and then they start playing something that's not in the album.
Autoplay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you remembered what real music sounded like? Is that what it was like?
Yeah. No, it's not even that. It was like, wait, is this...
What song was it?
I have no idea what it was. It didn't even sound like the same. It sounded totally different once I started paying attention again.
Okay.
And
so you're saying you were put into a comatose state while listening to the Shaggs.
Yeah, dude.
Philosophy of the world, might I add.
And I was listening to it. I go to check, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Oh, okay, that's not what it's supposed to be. And I turn it back on, and I was like, oh, damn it, I shouldn't have changed it.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, our conclusion, our final statement.
Here, let me give my verdict.
Yeah, you give your, because I've been kind of talking this whole time. You go ahead.
Yeah, it's all right. My final verdict is after listening to this rather intriguing story. If
Gotta
I'm
say
being
the title:
honest.
The Shaggs Philosophy
The saga of the Shaggs Philosophy of the World cinematic universe. I have to say there is some lost potential. I actually kind of see myself listening to this again for some reason.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity.
Okay.
And it's still terrible.
I agree.
We can leave it on that. It's
Yeah.
a piece of shit. Dude, imagine those three people listen to this and they just...
One of them passed away.
Oh, okay.
I think it was the drummer. Maybe. One
no.
of them passed away, and I'm pretty sure they're aware how bad it is.
Okay.
Like, I think they said in interviews that they are aware that it's bad and that they fully kind of accept the fact that it's terrible. So I don't think they'd be too harmed by this. Plus, we're being relatively nice compared to other people.
Oh,
like, remember,
some people really tear into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We're just gonna end that whole discussion about the Shaggs there.
Shaggs, nobody cares about the Shaggs anymore.
A lot of people care about the Shaggs right
That's
now.
not-
More than when it first came out, I would say.
Okay, right. Yes. End of discussion. Shaggs' philosophy of the world, the most.
But for real though, okay. Let's do this kind of rating, and we'll do this for the whole podcast, okay? Because we really haven't rated it. You know, I don't think we've rated anything on this show yet, right?
No.
Okay, let's do a rating where if it's a positive 10, it's like a masterpiece, right? 0 means that it's awful, forgettable, and just like it's just god awful.
It is
okay?
irredeemable.
Right. A negative 10 means it's so bad, it's a masterpiece. Like it's so bad, it's excellent. You want to try that whole rating scale?
I like the way you're going with that, actually.
Okay. Because I feel like we're going to be talking about a lot of bad and good stuff on this show.
Yeah.
So we might as well just have that kind of scale. So the Shaggs philosophy of the world, what is your rating, Joe?
Okay. Joe's final verdict on the Shaggs' Philosophy of the World album is going to be a negative 4.
A negative 4. Okay.
Negative 4.
Okay. For me, I'd say it's around like a negative 8.
Negative 8. Ooh.
Yeah. I like this album a lot. I always kind of have. You know, obviously not the first time I listened to it. You got to listen to it a lot more to kind of coax yourself into it.
Yeah, well, here, I haven't fully ingrained the scale in my head. I'll give it a negative 6.
Negative 6? Okay. Yeah. Because it's like, it's at least somewhat listenable. Like,
yeah.
It's a song that I feel like, you know, I've done this with TJ. You know, we were driving home, and I'm pretty sure I played this. Like,
Really?
It was around, like, I think 10 or 11. No, I think it was around midnight, actually. We were coming home from the Night of the Living Dead cast party.
Okay.
And I'm like, here, man, I got you. And I started playing the Shaggs, and he just gives me this look of horror on his face. So I think it was that instance when he first heard it, and I think he just must have forgot, because I had him re-listen to it again, again at lunch, and I think he just completely forgot about it. So either way, though, so I'm going to give it a negative 8, because it's so bad it's good, and it's a song that you can kind of like be like, here, listen to this song. It's so bad, you know, and people will laugh at it. Mm-hmm. It's not like, you know, the SoundCloud rappers of Atlanta that are all 15 that are just mumbling into a microphone. Not to diss mumble rap. I love you, Lil Pump. Not to diss mumble rap or anything. I'm just saying, though, like, that kind of stuff is like a 0. Like, there's no playback value at all.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, the Shaggs, 8 out of 10. So, now I'm going to ask you the 2 questions that we always kind of ask. What movies have you been watching since last week?
Well, I already kind of answered that. The Dark Knight, the first 2, I believe they're the first 2 of that trilogy that I really enjoyed, and also sort of knowing like the significance they had as a film too. I was watching them with that sort of in mind. I was like, yeah, this is cool. It's realistic, but it's still comic book.
I would agree.
It's a very, I don't know, when were those, like
2005 or 6, I think, was Batman Begins. 2008 was Dark Knight, and then 12 was Dark Knight Rises.
Sort of a more reserved, because I feel like at least a lot of the modern movies I've seen,
the Marvel ones, would you say?
Yeah, especially the Marvel ones, but just modern movies in general that are in this time period have that idea of comedy, but also drama.
Big and loud and explosions and...
Well, not... It's the combination of the two, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about Endgame right now, where it's like this really quiet moment when all life comes back on Earth, and then Ant-Man gets fucking blown up. And literally, they can't have a single second of silence in that movie because people are going to get bored otherwise. Like, I'm sorry. I rewatched a lot of the Marvel stuff, and I hate it. I'm like, this is too loud. I'm scared, and I want to go home. I don't know. There's just not enough quiet moments in movies. With Batman, like the Dark Knight movies, right?
Yeah.
There are tons of those.
Yeah.
Well, not really. There are a lot of dumb action parts. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I feel like Chris Nolan, you know, the director, just kind of does things because it looks cool in a way.
Yeah.
Like, obviously there's purpose, but, like, you've seen Dark Knight Rises, I assume. That's the one with Bane?
No, I've seen the one with Joker and the one with...
Oh, okay.
Ra's al Ghul or whatever the hell.
Yeah. So then I'm trying to think. Huh. Well, because there's, in the Dark Knight Rises, there's that whole thing with the planes where they literally have these planes actually up in the sky as they're filming this, and they're literally ripping the ripping the wings. That's hard to say. They're ripping the wings off of one of the planes while it's actually in the air as they're filming it. Like, it was all practical. There was no CGI.
Oh.
Yeah. So I feel like he does some of that stuff just because it's so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it works into the story.
Yeah.
You know, like, for example, the part with Joker where he's like, I'm going to give a detonator to the people at the jail, you know, all the prisoners, and then the average civilians. And if you press the button, then they blow up. Here, hold on 1 second there. All right, and we're back. So I would just say, though, that a lot of that kind of stuff has significant meaning with the story. You know, like, it works really well. Everything is just, I feel like it's great, you know? Whereas it's like, Thanos throws a moon at Iron Man, and then Iron Man blocks it. Like, I don't know. And don't get me wrong, too. I really hate Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I think those are the worst 3 movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, they are actually, like, they are worse than Marvel. Like, on a scale, right, ranking Man of Steel, I'd give it, like, maybe a 3, okay? You got Batman v Superman, which I would literally give a 0. Like, it is unwatchable. It makes me angry when I watch it. I yell at the TV, and I end up turning it off halfway through, if I'm even lucky enough to get halfway through the movie, okay? And Suicide Squad is like a 1. Like, it's slightly better because it's very flashy. But then again, though, it's like it's so flashy, it'll kill the one epileptic dude watching it. So it's like there's no midpoint. I don't know what it wants to be. But regardless of that, though, I feel like Marvel, they're better at DC, like the modern DC shit that they put out. Except for Joker. Joker's amazing, but we can talk about that movie later when, you know, you end up watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just saying, though, I feel like the Dark Knight movies are fantastic. It's kind of like round it all back to what I was saying before. I love how grounded they are.
Yeah,
you know?
that was one thing I really enjoyed too. Those were real.
Yeah. It's like, oh, he has a Batmobile, but it's a tank.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay, I'm good with that. I can follow that. That's good. But yeah, I think Dark Knight is the best one. And then Batman Begins is my least favorite of the trilogy.
Okay.
Because he's kind of still figuring out that voice, you know, that he's doing, and you can't really understand him that well. And it almost feels like 2 different movies with the whole Scarecrow thing and the Ra's al Ghul thing. Like,
yeah, they did feel pretty separated.
I forgot, and Dark Knight is like that too, where I rewatch Dark Knight and I forget about certain scenes. Like, I forgot about the scene where Joker where he does end up shooting Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that scene. I was watching it like, is this like a deleted scene? Because he's in it without his makeup, and I was like so confused.
Right.
And that's like another thing too. And I even forgot like Two-Face was in it too. Like when I rewatched it, like because I hadn't seen it in years, so I rewatched it. And I'm like, wait, Two-Face is in this one? I thought that was Dark Knight Rises. You know, it's very like, I don't know. I feel like his movies all kind of have that effect. You know, when they're like in the trilogy, the Batman ones, where it's like they feel like they're different movies, even though they're all in the same movie.
The same continuity
and
stuff.
Well, I mean, like, I forgot that Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow were in the same movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there was just some weird like disconnect with it, but still, what else have you been watching?
I just watched. This is a movie my brother Sam says is life changing. He says a lot of stuff is life changing.
Okay,
but this is like one of the big ones. Drive.
My man, that is on my list. Okay, I've heard so many good things about it.
It's on Netflix right now.
I know, and I have to see it. I have to see it, like, for real. Everyone keeps recommending it to me, and I'm like, all right, I'll watch it, but I still haven't seen it yet. And now, the fact that you've seen a movie before I have isn't fair, Joe. But yeah, and that's Ryan Gosling in that, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, you can tell me what happens. I've had some of it spoiled already, so you can... I mean, I guess if you want to spoil it, say spoilers for Drive, but if not... You can just do whatever. Just, you know.
I don't know. I'll just do an overall thing. I'll try to keep spoilers out of it.
Okay, so spoiler free.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay, maybe
tread with caution.
Tread with caution. Let's go.
So,
explain the plot,
explain the plot. Okay, so we got this race car. This guy who's Ryan Gosling's character. He actually isn't technically named in the movie. If you have the subtitles on, he's just driver.
Okay.
And he's really good with cars. He can fix them. He can drive them, everything. And what he does, he's a getaway driver.
Okay.
And the first scene, like the prologue or whatever, is just him doing that. And his boss also helps him out with that.
Okay.
Because he's a mechanic. They're both mechanics. They work at the same shop and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that boss is connected to some other stuff and what on and so have you. But I'll just try to keep this chronological. That happens, and he meets this woman who is husband's in prison right now.
Okay.
He's played by Oscar Isaac.
Oh, he's in that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, we were just talking at lunch about Oscar Isaac. How
Yeah.
much we loved him. Okay. Carry on. Sorry.
And he asks, Standard is Oscar Isaac's character, asks him to help him with a job.
Mm-hmm.
Driver. Standard driver, they come together, help him on a job because Standard has protection money that he owes some people from prison. But that job goes horribly wrong. So Driver is sort of fed up because even though he was sort of into Standard's wife and everything, they still became friends in a way. So he's working to protect Standard's family and just try to clean the whole mess up. And he's sort of new to the whole thing. He isn't a mob boss by any means.
Okay.
He's just doing it, you know. He's just out for vengeance, trying to keep this all under wraps.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also because the money they stole or whatever is connected to the mob East Coast. So the antagonists of the movie, who are also criminals and what have you, that are connected to Driver and his manager, are also trying to get rid of this whole thing. And I don't know. The movie happens.
I gotcha. Yeah,
I'll try to keep it. That's my spoiler-free.
I'm interested.
thing.
I'm intrigued. I will most likely watch it tonight. Honestly, like you've intrigued me to finally watch it.
It's got an awesome style to it too.
I've heard it's stylized. Yeah. You watch anything else?
No, I don't think I've watched anything else.
Okay, I got a movie for you. Okay, I watched it again because I've seen it before and I watched it again. It's a movie called Brigsby Bear.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
No.
All right. Well, we can. I'll tell you about it later. You know, for you to like write it down or whatever. But basically, the cast is pretty good. It's Kyle Mooney. He was on SNL for a while back in 2012, and he plays as the main character. And I don't want to spoil that much, but then again, the trailers kind of give it away, and the whole thing is like revealed in the first 5 minutes. Gotcha. So it isn't really a plot twist because I don't know. Do you want me to tell you?
Because I don't care.
Okay. I guess somewhat of a spoiler for Brigsby Bear if you just want to go in blind. I recommend not watching this, but I mean, I don't know. The trailers give this away. So Mark Hamill is like Kyle Mooney's father. He's actually in it. And he has Kyle Mooney watch these videotapes that he made for him called Brigsby Bear.
Okay.
And basically, he's in this like underground bunker, okay? And then the feds show up, and it's like, no, the world didn't end. Mark Hamill's crazy, and he kidnapped you when you were a kid. That's all in like the first like 5 minutes, okay? He ends up going back home to his real parents, and he keeps talking about Brigsby Bear because it's all he's watched since he was like a baby, you know? And he's shocked that nobody knows what Brigsby Bear is because it was something that Mark Hamill made specifically for him. And so then it kind of like the whole thing then is him going, he ends up meeting with Mark Hamill in prison, and he's like, how does the story end? Because he's like just obsessed, and he never got to see the end of Brigsby Bear.
Yeah.
And he's like, there isn't an end. You know, like I was just going to, you know, just keep making them or whatever. I don't remember the exact reason, but he's like, there isn't really an end that I planned out. I believe so. Anyways, so then he goes to some party with his sister, and at this point I'm kind of like checking out. I'm like, this could be really stupid because it was starting to be like a frat boy kind of movie almost.
Okay.
And then eventually he meets this guy who's a filmmaker, you know, and they're all in high school, and then he ends up, you know, him and Kyle Mooney kind of like connect over movies and stuff, and he ends up sending him a bunch of Brigsby Bear stuff that he had, and he loves it, and he's like, okay, well, let's make the finale, let's make the end of the show. Mm-hmm. So it's him and the filmmaker guy, and they team up to make a movie, and that's the rest of the movie is them making it.
Gotcha.
So it's like a filmmaker movie, which is why I dig it so much, because it shows the filmmaking process, and I love that so much. So like, it's interesting too because Kyle Mooney's character is so fun to watch because he's so awkward, like he's been raised in a bunker his whole life. So like before he eats, he does this whole like thing where he just says like it's like this whole like paragraph of like Brigsby Bear stuff before he eats. It's like a prayer almost that he does, and he's just a bizarre guy.
Yeah.
But you want to root for him so badly, and it's kind of like Care Bears in a way with what Brigsby Bear is, except it's like live action. So it's like 80s stuff. Like it's on a VHS tape, obviously. So it's like, it's just kind of bizarre. And they end up finding the Brigsby Bear costume in the movie. And because, they busted it out because he recruits this cop who was a Shakespearean actor during high school. And he ends up being in the movie, the cop does.
Yeah.
It's heartwarming. It's a really good movie to watch. And by the end, you're like, that was really good. Like it puts you in a good mood for the rest of the day, right? Mm-hmm. Really good movie. Brigsby Bear, check it out. I love it. I hope I didn't spoil too much. I adore that movie.
I'll probably forget everything you said.
I'll write it all down for you. So, yeah, I love Brigsby Bear. I just rewatched Operation Finale. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Okay, so it's starring Oscar Isaac.
Okay.
He plays as a Jewish Nazi hunter, right? This is all a true story, by the way. And he goes in and he tries to find Adolf Eichmann, who was a Nazi officer who was responsible for killing many Jewish people, in the camps. And they find him in Argentina. So they go in, and while he's like going in for, he's coming home from work, he has to walk from this bus stop to his home. Mm-hmm. And they even like strategically figure out where the lamps, are. Right. And they manage to like get him right before, like the lights go out and everything, or when the lights come on because it's, kind of darker out. Mm-hmm. And they literally pull up with the car and they just put him into the trunk and then they just drive off. And the rest of the movie they're like in this house, and the entire time they're trying to evade Nazis. Like there's like neo-Nazis, it's like his kids and like all these, other people trying to get into the house and save him. They're trying to prevent that from happening while trying to get on this plane too that has to go back to Israel so they could prosecute him. And the entire time then it's Ben Kingsley as Adolf Eichmann and Oscar Isaac, and they sit down for like most of the movie and they just talk it out. And you learn things about each person, and there's even like a sense of doubt, like, is he really Adolf Eichmann? You kind of wonder that. So it's a really good movie. It's a thriller. It's like a spy thriller kind of thing.
Yeah.
When it came out, it was just like dismissed. Oh, it's Oscar bait. Because it came out like before Oscar season, and it's like you could see it that way. But I think it's a really well-made spy thriller and a great period piece. I love the movie. So, any video games you've been playing?
Hold on. I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So is this like a formal thing? The Israel, because I know the Israeli governments are like, we're gonna hunt some Nazis.
Yes.
So is this a professional thing? Or
professional thing through the government.
Gotcha.
That actually happened. The prime minister approved it. I'm trying to think of who else is in the movie that you might know. That really garbage show Big Mouth that's on Netflix? Mm-hmm. Okay, the show's producer or like creator and like one of the voice actors is in it as one of the Nazi hunter guys too. Okay. I don't know his name, but he's also in it too. Just kind of listing off people that you might know. But it's a really well-made movie. It's shot really well. I loved it. But it's a true story. Mm-hmm. It's completely true. I think there's very little like factual things wrong with it. Like,
gotcha.
I heard that they even, I don't want to spoil it then, because I kind of like, I don't want to spoil it, but they went really deep in trying to get this to be historically accurate. That's what I'm saying. So, it was a really good movie.
Games.
Gamer.
So games. I'm pretty sure I haven't really been playing anything new as of now. Mm-hmm. Have I picked up anything? Oh, yeah. So, Half-Life 1, right?
Yeah.
So there is a mod for it that's totally free. You don't even need the original game.
Okay.
And it's a multiplayer co-op thing called Sven Co-op, and me and my friend have been playing through the entire Half-Life game, the original one.
Yeah.
In that, and I don't know. It's just a fun way to screw around with your friends, but still play that old
My
sort of
favorite
game.
Half-Life mod is Crack Life. Have you ever? Do you know what
I've
that is?
heard of that
It's so funny. My friend Josh installed it one time and we played through it and we just died. It was the funniest thing ever. But yeah. So anything else you've been playing?
There was a horror game. I might have brought this up last time. I don't think I did though.
I don't think you did. No.
But it's this indie horror game called Life in Vivio, I believe.
Okay.
And it is on Steam, and it's sort of slowly revealed to you, but it's pretty obvious, so I think it's okay to say.
Okay.
That you're playing as a man, woman, nobody really knows.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah, you're good.
But some mentally ill dude who gets, I don't know, he falls into the sewer.
Okay.
Chasing after his like help dog, and that's the whole game is you trying to. It's a linear sort of get keys, go through the thing, and it's a horror game, and it's also the first horror game I've ever played.
Okay.
And I was playing it with that same friend, and it was really fun just because I never play a horror game, and I have this sort of I felt anxious.
Okay.
I can get pretty easily jump scared.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to me too because I have a more of a fight response in terms of fear everything, and you're able to defend yourself from all the monsters.
Oh, that's cool.
So like the very first encounter you have, it's really just in there to scare you. I think it's not particularly significant, but you're just in the sewers, and this random creepy ass homeless guy shows up right behind you, and I was like, whoa, and just smashed him in the face with the sledgehammer, and my friend too was like, whoa, and it was cool too because there really wasn't much audio for it. He just appeared and there was a little audio cue.
Yeah.
And it was even cooler too because his face was sort of graffitied onto the wall.
Oh, wow.
So you turn around and he's just suddenly there, super quiet, and you just
That reminds me of this video I saw on YouTube where it was some crackhead down in like the sewer and somebody saw him like they were like, you know those like sewer grates are like on the side of the sidewalks?
Yeah.
They saw him down there and they're like filming him and they're like, what are you doing down there, buddy? He's like, I got lost. I was trying to find my friend. And that's what I thought it was because like you're like describing this. I'm like, is this like a thing for the game? Like I was like thinking like, did I get like duped or something? Like, that's what it sounds like. But for me, I've just been playing Red Dead 2. I'm just back on that. I'm just back to robbing trains. Yeehaw. Yeah. So, I don't know. What? Anything else you might want to add with video games? Or is that... What's that game called that you're talking about? Life in
Vivio.
Vivio. Okay.
And I think it's on Steam.
That was the first horror game you played?
First ever horror game. I was actually, before I was playing it, or like as the lead up to it.
Yeah.
It was like, hey... I don't think I've ever played a horror game, and then...
Oh, no.
And my friend was like, oh, okay, come over, we'll play this.
Yeah.
So it was cool in that way, whereas, first horror game, and it was scary.
Okay.
And it's, it's even weirder, too, because usually I'll have horror games, like, in the background when I'm working on something.
Yeah.
And that isn't scary.
Yeah.
But when you're actually playing it, you're like... This is terrifying.
Yeah. One of my first horror games was PT.
Oh, yep.
Yep. I didn't know what I was in for. I really, like, my friend had it on his PS4 back when it first came out, and this was, like, 6th grade, and he was just like, hey, you want to play this game? I heard it's pretty good, and I'm like, okay, sure. I was petrified. I don't think I slept in days. And really, I don't get scared by that much stuff anymore. Yeah. The only thing I've gotten scared by was PT, and then the movie Sinister. Those are the only two things that have actually genuinely terrified me. So Sinister is a movie that I still struggle to get through because it's so scary. Mm-hmm. Like, even for a hardcore horror fan like myself, you know, I've seen stuff. I still can't get through it. I have to pause it, and then I'll come back the next day to try to watch it again. It took me 3 days to watch it the first time. That's how
Really?
scary it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm really scared by all that much, except for jump scares totally get me.
I hate jump scares. Like, not like, I think they're just bad horror, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of lazy. I don't know. Sinister, I think, only has one, and it's like right at the end. And that's when it's kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. but
yeah, I mean, really. Yeah, that's what was. You said you didn't sleep after PT, right?
all right, here we go.
So I was watching my brother play Slender Man.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Because I was like, hey, I want to check this out. And I was really young at the time.
Yeah.
And I got, like irrationally scared about it, right?
Yeah.
And I even was like my mom was trying to calm me down the day afterwards.
Uh-huh.
And I did all this research. And then finally I had this dream where I just beat the crap out of him.
And that stopped it?
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, I'm not scared of you anymore. And that's probably, yeah, I was just like, okay, I'm not, fine, I'll fight.
I mean, I would, yeah. That was rather frightening, I'd say, especially when you're younger, you know, like we were, you know, and seeing that kind of stuff. I mean, there was the Five Nights at Freddy's. You remember that?
Yeah.
Trash. I don't know. I wasn't really scared by that, though. I just liked playing it, you know, for the lore and all that kind of stuff. But,
I don't think I really played that one ever.
Okay.
I just looked at it.
I mean, if you've been jump scared, you know, like that, you know, that's what it's like, essentially.
Yeah.
Imagine that right there, what I just did. Imagine that, but constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I imagine you just get, like, who cares?
by, like, the second game, he got so lazy that he literally just had a PNG. Just literally move in at the screen while a loud sound played. It was a PNG of one of their faces. That's how lazy he got.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I don't know. You haven't really missed much, especially if you watch, like, a Let's Play, you know, which are just garbage now. Like, for real, Let's Plays are complete trash.
Yeah.
Where it's at now is it's at streaming, you know, Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's at now. Instead of, so guys, today we're going to be playing Happy Wheels episode 200, you know, like.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more just stream highlights nowadays for games.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's interesting, though, because if anything, well, I mean, like, highlights, yeah, but, like, just watching the stream requires a lot of patience. Especially because a lot of it's just people, like, staring at their computers.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first kind of, like, made that jump from Let's Plays, you know, to watching streams, I was just kind of like, this is kind of boring. You know, I was like, I didn't get it at first until, you know, it took some coaxing and watching more and more of it that I'm like, okay, now I understand the vibe that it's going from. But still, though, I love the in real life or, like, IRL streamers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I love Asian Andy. He is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy I showed you him, right? During Tech Week. Oh, my God, man. He is the best. I mean, I would never want to do that myself, but it is so funny watching people suffer for my entertainment. Like, for real. It's the best. But, yeah, so, I mean, I'm just playing Red Dead 2, you know, robbing trains and stuff, just like I mentioned before. I don't know. It's fun. It really is. I prefer Arthur Morgan, though, to John Marston, because John can't swim. He can't. Did you ever notice that?
No?
Yeah, no. He goes in the water, and then he just drowns immediately. It's completely pointless. So, I mean, no, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I don't got much.
All right.
Kind of tired, so
let's film that reshoot for that movie we're doing, and then
yeah, get out of here.
Bada bing, bada boom. All right, so that concludes episode numero dos of Joe and Cole versus the world.
Absolutely.
All right, so bam, bam, bam.